Get it, Shelley? There we go. Oh, hello, Shelley. How are you?
Oh, hello, Jeremy. I'm fabulous. I'm loving this time with you.
Oh, it's great. That was such a fun just coffee session and catch up. It had been years. It's so good to reconnect. You've got the sun beautifully positioned on you coming
Nature is
in.
my spotlight, man.
Your background is by far one of the best backgrounds, the natural brick. You're in a Chicago loft. And can you tell me what's over your left shoulder?
That, my friend, is my book. It's called Soulbattical, A Corporate Rebel's Guide to Finding Your Best Life. That was published. It's basically, I call it a memoir, manifesto, and interactive guide for
Ooh.
those of us looking to rewrite our script of success. Yes. Published 8 weeks before the world shut down. So it also has its own story to tell.
Absolutely. Well, Shelley, you were the CMO of Harley-Davidson. You have created a lot of cool brands. You've made an impact on a lot of people in the greater marketing, advertising, media ecosystem. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you? Who are you?
Yes, this journey from chief marketing officer to chief soul officer
Yeah.
has been a wild ride. Yeah, who am I? I'm a woman who's living her truth. I am a rebel soul. I'm a badass on a mission to help leaders rewrite their
Yeah.
script of success. And I am somebody, there's a quote. I'll butcher the quote, but the idea from Brene Brown was this idea that, we share our stories so they can become somebody else's survival guide. And to me, that's what defines the work I do. And I also think that connects to this idea of mentorship. That's why we share our journey. That's why we share what we learned and how we approached it so that, we can put an arm around other people. And so, I'm somebody who lived, ultimately, I understood that I was living my dad's script of success. And I want to be really clear, it served me very, very, very well for a very long time. I had an incredible global marketing career with lots of iconic brands. It took me around the world. And the pinnacle of my career was, as you said, CMO of Harley-Davidson. When I got a real wake-up call that kind of shook me, and I thought, do I even understand who I am? How can you be at the top of this mountain and feel empty inside and feel just freaking exhausted? So that's kind of what spurred what I've been doing for the past 7 years.
And what you've been doing for the past 7 years essentially helps define who you are on your journey. Tell us a little bit more about just the past 7 years, what you've been up to.
Yeah, well, the first 8 months of my, this terrifying decision that I made, this, what most people thought was like an insane decision to leave as CMO of Harley Davidson. Who does that? I'm that person. So it took big cojones for me to decide to do that. And
Giant.
partially, I was 46 years old and I thought, God, what if I feel this way by the time I'm 50? Like, will I even be alive to tell my story? Will all the joy be robbed from my life? And so I went on this journey that I had no words for. So I created a word. I called it Soulbattical because I knew what I was doing hadn't really been done, or at least it wasn't the norm. It wasn't a traditional sabbatical as you see often in the academic space and now more in the corporate space. It wasn't a vacation. It wasn't really anything I could put my finger on. And so I created this mashup word that ultimately became, I didn't know at the time I was going to write a book. And it ultimately became the title of my book because I realized that I needed something unique and I gave myself a title. That was the very first moment where I was like, you girl are chief soul officer of your life, because I was very title sensitive and I knew that I needed something that would hold me accountable to this thing inside, to my own truth, not what society says success equals and what all those boxes are that you're supposed to or should tick. But what is my soul saying? And have I even been listening? So
Totally.
that was the first 8 months where I was kind of traveling around and reconnecting with myself. And then, as I told you separately, my dad had a massive stroke about 8 months into my Soulbattical. And that taught me a whole other
Jarring.
series of, it shook my world. And it also was the moment where I realized there was no going back. There was only going forward, and that I was meant to do different work in the world. Because if ever you need the cosmic kick in the pants, that's going to remind you that life is short, man, that's one of them. There are many of them, but often I have realized in the past 7 years that so many of us wait for the cosmic kick in the pants.
Yep.
And the pandemic was that for some people, right? Where it's just like, what matters most to you? And so in that moment, I realized that I was focused on taking tiny steps forward toward what matters most to me and in alignment with my truth and my values, which are freedom, authenticity, and courage. And that started to give birth to this work I do around rewriting the script of success and helping others do it for themselves.
So that amazing. And sometimes we just need those unfortunate kicks in the ass, so to speak, and just having to move forward and remembering each day one step at a time. Like today is focus on
Every
today.
badass
Tomorrow.
accomplishment is a series of tiny steps. This is something I repeat to myself every single day. So if anybody needs a new mantra, that's a good one. All we have to do is take the next right tiny step. We're never going to know. We don't have crystal balls. We never know exactly what's going to happen, but tiny steps set things in motion.
So those tiny steps that set things in motion, how would you characterize the skill set that you'll be sharing with the OhHello community?
Broadly, it's really a mindset and it's a soul set, right? And which I
Was
think is a
hoping you'd
word
go
I've
in that
never,
direction.
yeah, soul set isn't a word I've ever said before, but there's maybe something there. But it's this idea, yeah, it's this idea that we get to really understand. Like it took me a while to start to unravel all of the narratives and the stories I was telling myself and how I was defining success, and to realize, I don't mean this in a bad way, but just to be honest that, that was handed to me. I never really even thought, is that true for me? So all of the work that I've done, and frankly am still doing, that work is what I love to share in my conversation, so that the answer is different for every single one of us. The process is different, but there are some tools and some questions and some frameworks that can help you along the way. And that's what I love sharing.
Amazing. What excites you about mentorship? What excites you about the OhHello community, the platform, and just
Mm.
combining our missions together?
A few things. Well, let me highlight two. One I've already said, because I think this idea, I start my book in the intro and I say, I wrote the book that I wish I had when I went off on this journey. And so I want to put an arm around you and say, I got you. Because often when we're in these moments and we're having these crises, we feel so freaking alone. And so anyone who's feeling alone, if I can be a mentor and at least help guide you through the early, like those darkest phases, or the most confusing or the most stuck feeling, that's really important to me. And the second piece, especially around aligning our forces, is the way I define currency today is very different than how I would have defined it when I was at Harley.
Sure.
And my success currency is impact. And I think this is what I talk about in all of my talks too. My way of thinking about it is ripples of impact. To me, that's the new ROI. And that's what motivates me and energizes me every single day. So mentorship is ripples of impact, us sharing our stories and inspiring the next person. And then I just have this vision every time I say it, imagining you're not only changing your life, but you are impacting how we think about, in my case, success in the world, like well beyond yourself. And the more of us, like you and me and so many others in this community, who are showing up in different ways and showing up more powerfully, we're giving others permission to do that as well. That's what I love.
What a wonderful answer. The ripples, I can see the visual. And also, as you and I were talking about when we were doing the pre-chat, having coffee together, just the when you're going to corporations, when you're going to universities and you're making that impact on stage, talking through, you don't have to leave your jobs. You just need to be able to uh, talk to people. I took this risk for you. You don't
Yeah,
have to jump. Tell us a
you're
little bit more about
nailing
that.
it. Oh my God. Well, and it took me a while to get here, but I realized one day I literally looked at a meeting organizer because I asked this organizer, what does success look like on the other side? It was a massive audience, like 1,000 female leaders. It was a talk I did this summer. And she said, what it looks like is these women are incredibly inspired, but please don't make them quit. And it was such a wake up call for me. I was like, oh shit, is that what people think of my work? And I'd heard it a few times before, but it never landed that deeply. And I was like, oh, wait a second. No, the whole point is I quit so you don't have to. And so I've actually started, that is in my talk. It is line that gets the laugh and the snaps and the everything every time I say it, because that is the truth. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Giving
I
me the
got you.
snap.
I got you.
But that's the truth of it. The truth is, I'm standing on these stages and I'm doing the work that I do now because I'm sharing what I wish I would have known in their shoes as leaders, wherever you are on that leadership journey, from, earlier on in your career to the C-suite. This is applicable because in my mind, this is about how do we individually and collectively rewrite success so that it's infused with more humanity and well-being and soul. I mean, not burnout and mental health crises and attrition and, right? I
So
want to
many
be
hands.
the antidote to that.
Who helped get you to where you are today from a professional mentor perspective? When you look back and you think, wow, these people, it could be personal too, personal, professional. Who are some mentors that have made a profound impact on you, Shelley Paxton?
Yeah, well, I think so many, and I'm sure everybody says that, right? Like too many to name.
We'll
And
tag some of them then.
yeah. No, a few that I would call out. I mean, one who is still a very dear friend of mine today. You may even know her from the ad agency world, Kate Stevenson. She was a
Not
boss of
familiar.
mine at Omnicom Media Group. So when I was in the Omnicom space on the agency side, before I went to Harley, in fact, Kate was my boss when I had to say I was going to Harley. And Kate is a rebel soul, and I watched her navigate big organizations and hold boundaries. She was a rebel soul, an amazing leader, and she was a single mom. And so
Badass.
I learned so much about boundaries, about how to get stuff done, and also about how do you protect that world, because it was really important to her that she got home and ate dinner, as an example, with her daughter every night. And then on the weekends, she was with her daughter. And so she was really clear with us about when she was available and when she wasn't available. And I see that still coming into the heart of what I talk about today, because boundaries over burnout is a choice.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. And the second one I'll highlight here for the sake of time is more recently, Chip Conley. Chip is a New York Times bestselling author. He's a hospitality disruptor. He had his own boutique hotel group, Joie de Vivre. Then he went on to join Airbnb and help them become the
Cool.
behemoth that we know them as today. And more recently, he is the founder and CEO of Modern Elder Academy, the world's first midlife wisdom school.
Awesome.
And I was introduced to Chip at right after my book came out, and felt an immediate soul brother, soul sister conversation. And he's really helped guide me through this entrepreneurial journey, through the soul journey, and helped me show up as a teacher and a sharer of wisdom in this soul space.
Amazing. Shelley, any other parting words of wisdom that you want to give to our audience?
I suppose I can end on what I have tattooed on my forearm, which,
What
if
is
you
it?
can't read it, it says, authenticity is the truest form of rebellion.
I love
So
that.
be true to you. It's
Love
at the
that.
core of how we show up in the world.
Amazing. Shelley, you are badass. So grateful to have you on the pod, on the VOD. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for listening. crushed it. Thank you, my
Good
friend.
grief.
Everyone book with Shelley.